Okay, for those of you on Zoom, we're in Bryant Park B. This is Thursday. Second. And for those of you in Zoom, this is Thursday, Bryant Park B. We have Victoria Schmidt with CyberTrain. She's going to be presenting on adding gamification to enhance your remedy training. So with that, Victoria, I would like to go ahead and turn it over to you. I will stop sharing.
Okay, sounds great. Hello everyone, I'm Victoria Schmidt, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. That way we can go ahead and get started. Can everybody see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, great. So today's session, we're going to go over how to make your training more memorable. And by doing that, we're going to add some gamification techniques to the training, specifically our remedy training. And as you can see, the gentleman on the screen is playing a game, and you can see he's very engaged, and that's what we're looking for. So a little bit about me. I'm an architect for BMC with CyberTrain, and I've got 20 years of experience in training and over 16 years experience with the Remedy product and BMC products in general. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll talk about the different types of gamification, why you would want to add those to your training, and we'll talk about how you add them to the training, and we'll look at some examples of that, and if we have time, we'll actually do some of the activities and play some games. So first, what is gamification? Well, according to Oxford, you have the definition here, where it's really just applying elements of gameplay to other types of activities, whether that be training, marketing, whatever, and it's to increase the engagement level of the person that's looking at this type of thing. So gamification is exciting because it makes things fun, right? It promises to make the hard stuff in life fun. You can apply game elements to lots of different non-game contexts. And in this case, we're talking about training specifically, and why we want to do that is so that we can increase engagement, which therefore increases your retention of the information that we're passing along so they can transfer it to the job. So Mary Poppins said it best: in every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun, and snap, the job's a game. So one of the things to keep in mind for when you're applying gamification techniques to your training is that it needs to be purpose-built. Don't just create a game or apply gaming techniques to your training just because you want to make it fun. It has to be to increase student engagement so that they can transfer those skills to the job. So often, gamification techniques that are successful include a series of goals. They might have some story elements or scenarios. They have a lot of interactivity to keep the students engaged, and they have some sort of reward at the end of this, and they continually get feedback. So again, motivate and engage the learners and make sure that it's memorable, and most importantly, transfers to the job. Because if you have training where people are just learning things, but then when they go back to the job, they can't apply what they learned, your training is really not successful. So that's what we're going for, right? And you want to keep those people engaged and reinforce the material. Some examples of gamification techniques that you could apply to training are using leaderboards, badges, awards, some sort of achievement. You can give them a point system, so as they're progressing through your training, they're getting points for various things that they're doing, and depending on how well they do it, they get a higher level of points. You want to make sure they have reinforcement activities. You can actually have some learning games, but it has to be something that either reinforces or has some sort of meaning to your training and whatever the topic is. It's best to have some sort of realistic scenario that relates to their job, because adults are really focused on I want to learn something that's going to improve my skills and my job performance. I don't want to just learn to learn. So some good examples of how you might do that are through simulations, hands-on activities, where people are doing exercises in the system. You can even do it with knowledge check activities. So instead of just saying, yes, that's correct, no, that's incorrect, give them some points and build on those points as they go through. You can even do things with surveys. I recently did one where I used a survey to really do an assessment, a self-assessment of the group's digital acumen. So they would answer some questions, and depending on what their answers were, and it could be they had multiple choices of things they could do, it would give different points based on what they chose, and at the end, it would give them a score sheet, and it would show them in a color-coding way, you know, which items they were right on par for, didn't need any additional training, which ones they needed a little bit of training, but they were on the right path, and other ones where they really needed to start at the beginning and get the introductory basics and then move on through the training. And we did that through a survey activity, which you wouldn't normally think of it like that, but by applying gamification techniques, that made it interesting for people to do that self-assessment. So again, make sure that it applies to the job. It makes training more interesting when you do that, and you create the scenario so that it applies to your real life situation. All right? And you want to make sure that they actively engage, which makes your training stick. So some of the tips are know your audience. You'll be surprised how it motivates many different people. So a lot of times I hear people say, well, I have an older audience, and I don't think they really like playing games. Well, I would argue that everybody likes playing games. I mean, do you play Candy Crush, Monopoly? You play games with your family? There's many different types of games. You could even play solitaire, right? It's something that's engaging to you, and you'd be surprised, it goes all across all ages. The gamification techniques work, and they engage people. But know your audience to know what types of things they like. Do they like a realistic scenario? Are they more interested in like a cartoony type of interface? So know them, and that will help you design your training and your gamification. Try something small first, see if it works. If it doesn't work, then adjust it for the next iteration of it. And once you get success in that, then you can expand it to your other courses. And think outside the box. It's not just a game, it's a lot more. You're just applying the techniques of a game. So what are the typical types of gamification? Again, we have the leaderboards, challenges, badges, rewards, games. You can also do reinforcement types of things. And make sure that they all have something that relates to their job. So let's look at these in a little more detail. And you guys have access to download the slides, and it has all this material. So we won't go through every one, but we'll look at a couple of these. So that way we have a little more time. So like a leaderboard. Most modern learning management systems or learning experience systems that corporations have the capability to have something called a leaderboard. And what that does is it's going to track how the student's doing as they're going through the course with their knowledge checks, with their quizzes and scores, and it can actually post it. This is an example from Moodle where it's giving the people's names, it's ranking them, showing their scores, and then it becomes competitive. But you don't have to just make it their actual names, because sometimes that demotivates people if they see that they're at the bottom of the list. But you can give them a way to make an alias. So they know where they're at, they see where they're at on the leaderboard, and they'll strive to improve. So that's a good reason to use a leaderboard, is it really gets people engaged because people are just naturally competitive. You can also do things where you award badges. If you go into BMC's training, you'll notice that it awards badges for certain things. If you go through sales trainings, you're going to get certain levels of badges as you go through. That's gamification applied. In its simplest form, it's just given a badge for what they're doing. But you can actually use open badges from Mozilla, and it's free, and then you can integrate it into your system and be able to use a badging system. So there's lots of different ways to do it. Or you could even do something as simple as, we've done some knowledge checks where depending on how they answer and get through with the score, they might get gold, silver, or bronze. So it gives them some sort of reward for going through, and it tells them a little bit about how they ranked just by doing that simple thing, because everybody understands that. You can also give them rewards, points, give them challenges. You can do things like learning activities and games. So in this particular example that I'm showing here is called the Puzzler. In this one, they're given a scenario and they're given some hints. All of these are blank and they have to fill them in, but they fill them in by going into their system and looking up these customers. And while they're doing that, they're learning to actually use the real system. They're looking them up, they're finding information about the customer, which they would normally do as a support agent when they're talking to a customer. So you're mimicking the same sort of things they would do in real life, but in a fun manner. So you can do things like that. You can also use games to do things like refresher information. So if you have an instructor-led course even, it doesn't have to be self-paced e-learning. It could be an instructor-led course. And you divide your class into two groups, and they go through and they play a Jeopardy type of game, which is what this is. And I'll show that to you if we have time as we're going through. But they get questions that are related to that day's learning. So it's an end-of-the-day activity, the thing that was taught in a fun way, and it's competitive because they're competing against each other, right? And that leads to engagement. And if they know that's coming and you have a 5-day course, then each day they're going to pay attention a little more so they can do better in that end-of-day game. You can also do things with scenarios, and we'll look at some of the scenarios in the system. So lots of different ways to do different things. So let's go ahead and look at some of these as examples. So what other types of gamification? Don't forget that it's not just games. You can also do things like virtual reality if that's appropriate to the topic you're teaching. You can do 360 exploratory activities, interactive videos, explore it so they can look around the screen themselves, and adults like controlling their own learning, so that's a good way to do it. There's also something called Kahoot, and I'll do that in just a few minutes and show you what that's about. It's a very simple tool where you can put in questions, but it presents it in a fun manner, and it's timed, so people have to answer very quickly, and everybody can answer at once by typing in, and it will show the answers to everybody. You can even use it for things like near the end of training, you can gauge each day how the students are feeling. Something simple like that. It doesn't even have to be a knowledge check type of activity. It can be, how's the training going? Do you feel like you're getting the training? That sort of thing. So let's go ahead and look at a couple of examples. So here's an example of an actual leaderboard. Let's see this open up here. And I'm actually going to stop my video while I'm showing these because they take up quite a bit of bandwidth, and that way it'll come a little faster.
Hey, Victoria, this is Phil. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
I love the slide you just showed just a little bit ago, a couple of slides back about virtual reality.
Yes.
I have the Oculus Quest 2 VR headset, and yes. I was wondering, do you or have you integrated training using that type of device for gamification?
Yes, and actually that's on my next slide, going over for gamification there too. You actually can build things for Oculus, and I have some examples of the tools that you can use. Let me go through here and I'll show you some of them.
Great.
So Unity 3D is the #1 choice for developers to actually create virtual reality worlds that would be used by something like an Oculus device so that you could go in and do this type of training. And one of the customers I work with right now, they've actually created a virtual reality situation for doctors because they have where the doctors go in and need to operate. There's a particular surgery that is very dangerous to do on real people, and so they don't get an opportunity to do that very often, but they need to train these doctors so they know how to do it. And they did that by creating a virtual reality situation where the doctors and the anesthesiologists, everybody involved, actually go in as a group into this virtual world and perform the surgery and see all the different results, but it's in a safe environment, right? So that's a great way that you can use that sort of thing, but you have to apply it to something that is appropriate for what you're trying to teach. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, so let's go ahead and I'll show you that Jeopardy one. We'll be able to play it for maybe just a few minutes. I'll just kind of run through it a little bit myself. But what I really want to do is the Kahoot because we went through the Jeopardy game yesterday, so you'll be able to see that in the interactivity. But for those that didn't do that,
Thank you.
it's really
It's good to see you.
this is called Remedy Rockstar, but it's very much like a Jeopardy game, right? It can be an instructor-led activity or it can be created as a self-paced one as well. So.
Hello everyone, welcome to Remedy Rockstar Time. And I'm your man, Remedy Ron, and we got us a good one today. Team Evangeline versus Team Bernardo.
So
let's play.
Dividing up into 2 teams. We take the class and just divide them up into 2 teams, and then they will pick, just like on Jeopardy, different questions, right? And so, of course, we're going to show what the rules are for the game first. Sorry, this is running so slow. I'm not sure why the network is slow. I think it's because of this. But basically, you're going to divide into 2 teams, take turns. You don't shout out the answer, you say, pick me. And the first person to buzz in or raise their hand gets to answer, and they're either right or wrong. So you can go in and say something like, okay, I'm going to take General Remedy for 400. So you wait and see what the question is. Does Remedy have role-based permissions? Somebody will raise their hand from either Team Evangeline or from Team Bernardo, and whoever comes in first, selected by the instructor. And then the instructor decides whether they are correct or incorrect. So we'll say, they got that wrong. Yes, they do have row-level security and role-based permissions, right? So not only do you get points for being correct, you get minus points for being incorrect. So it continues to go ahead and do that, and it tracks it. You can see down here as people are going through, and at the end it jumps to the end, and the instructor can end it at any time, and it gives a winner, and it has a little dance thing and all of that. So it's a lot of fun. So then some other ones that we have here, in addition to just playing games, gamification can be applying some of the techniques that keep people engaged. So here's an example of using music and motion like they do in games to engage people. So let's take a look at this one. This one, rather engaging because it's fast-paced, a lot of music, there's a lot of motion going on the screen. You've got the cartoony booms, things like that. But it's actually teaching them things. People are paying attention because it's moving quickly, right? And they don't want to miss something. So that is a technique of gamification that is applied to training. So it's not a game, but it is using gamification techniques. And here's another example of one. So it's the same type of thing, different types of characters in this one, but this one's setting a scenario, right? This is the HR person coming out and giving some tips on different things. They're going to walk through the workplace, point out different things, and this one happens to be about diversity and inclusion, and it's talking about that, and it shows why, right? But it's using the gamification technique and scenario building to do that and keep people engaged. Okay. And then you can even do things that are very simple. And I have a couple of different examples of this, but this is one that's actually where someone is teaching about gamification by doing an explore it, where you can say, oh, what's these challenges? And it goes here and talks about the challenges. So the learner gets to control where they're going and what they're doing. But you could do this with a remedy screen, right? Or with a discovery screen or whatever, where they get to control where they're going. You could have a screen and then they get to go into different places and maybe even do a simulation within there. So you can really get creative with these and do different types of things. So here's an example of one with a remedy system. Come up here. And this is
to log into self-service. Use the URL shown here in the browser. Type in your network username and password. The home screen displays.
Here, they get to
Notice the different sections.
Just use your cursor to discover different,
followed by how-to resources, most common IT requests, and as they move their mouse over different IT services.
It's going to tell them about that area of the screen so that they can discover it. But you could even click on different things to go see a simulation or whatever in that case. You can also do things that are simple interactions, but they are related to gamification, called flip cards, where students will go through and they have to actually click on it to turn it over to see different information. So they're having to actively be engaged. And so I'll scroll through here and you see different things are going on with the course. And then this one, they have to actually complete this, and this happens to be, rather than a flip card, it's a scroll through, but it's the same type of concept. But I'll show you some other flip cards as well. But you can ensure that they actually click on these and go through this by not allowing them to continue the course until they have done that. So you can check their knowledge, and remember we talked about scenario building. This is a scenario. We've got Steve here, and Steve needs to be more involved in team meetings and discussions. So how could you do that? And it gives you a couple of examples here. So I guess I could invite him to a meeting and then introduce him to people. Would that help? Well, Steve doesn't seem real happy because he wasn't comfortable going to the meeting by himself the first time. He didn't know where it was, how to get involved. So he kind of felt singled out that you pointed out him to the whole team. So let's try this again. So it gives you a chance to try it again. Well, maybe I should have walked him to the meeting and then engaged him during the meeting to ask his opinion. Let's see. Oh, Steve likes that. Steve's smiling. He feels a little more included now. Thanks for taking the time, right? And it goes through this whole scenario. This is using a gamification technique in the way of building a scenario or situation that is similar to on the job and what they might encounter. Right? And then you can also do things like this is another type of flip card where they're turning over things and see additional information on the back. And you could have a graphic on here or text, so it doesn't matter, you can do either one. But that's another example of how you can do those types of things. And I'll show you the virtual reality one next, and then hopefully we'll have time to play the Kahoot in just a second. So here's an example of a virtual reality one. I couldn't show you the one that the company I'm working with is doing because it's proprietary, and they won't
You
allow
booked
that
a
to be
cozy
shown. But
Verbo
this
mountain
one
cabin.
You can see, so this will be kind of fun.
Small coffee. Cash.
And as part of the game, you are where the hand.
Put the money in the bag. Put the money in the bag now. Do it now. Get down on the floor now. Get down. Get your hand off the phone. Don't touch that phone. Get on the ground now. Don't you look at me. Get on the ground now.
So that one is actually showing how to react during a robbery, right? And it's very realistic. It's setting a situation where people are actually in the environment and reacting, and based on what they do, then the virtual reality reacts differently, just like a game would if you were in a game world, right? And it's very useful to do that when you have a situation where you're teaching something where they need to react to other people or other things, or perhaps even repair something, and they can see if they repair it incorrectly. So those types of things. But you have to use those in a way that makes sense to the job. But there are some cool virtual reality ones out there. And as I'd shown you a little bit earlier, I've got a lot of information on different tools you can use to create virtual reality. I find it very fascinating to do those sort of things. But there's a lot of different tools that you can use, and some of them are even free. So you can go out there and try that development, because, you know, a lot of us are developers and admins, and we like getting in and doing those sort of things. So then the other one I wanted to show you is called Kahoot. And this one's quite fun, but it will require that you take out your phone and go ahead and log into Kahoot.it. And I'll go ahead and do this at the same time so we can see somebody that's in here. I'll put in. And once you get there, you're going to put in a game pin that I'm going to show on the screen in just a minute. And you're going to select the nickname. You can, it will present you with a nickname, but if you can type one in or just select what it chooses, or you can spin it and get another one. But you only get 3 choices. Then click OK Go, and you'll be entered into the Kahoot. So I'm going to go ahead and start the game now. And then it will show the game pin to put into your phones. So, and don't forget it's Kahoot.it. So it's coming up now. I'm going to go ahead and click play. And let's see. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay. Want to make sure I was in the right one. We're going to do classic. And it's loading up the game pin, which you can then put into your phone or tablet or computer. So here's the game pin. It is 29416 9, 4. And by the way, for those of you that are watching this as a recording, this won't be running at the same time, so you'll just have to watch. Now we all choose a nickname and then say, okay, go. Click that button. And you can see that now we've got a couple of people that are into the Kahoot. So I'm going to go ahead and start it. This Kahoot is going to go fast, so you have to answer the questions quickly on your phone as it comes up. So I'll let you know that in advance. It should be loading up on your phone now. All right, the first is just a welcome that I've added for everybody. It's a way to make your training memorable. So get ready to type quickly, okay? And this will, true or false, ready to play? Make sure your phone's up. True or false? And you pick the color that matches it, right? Are you ready to play?
Yep.
Okay. And then it's going to give you points. Oh, Barry's in the lead. Go to the next one. Who said, quickly, quickly, we have so little to do and so much time to do it. Hold it, strike it, reverse it. You got to type your answer quickly. Nine, 8, 7, it's counting down over here. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's your answer? If you don't answer quickly enough, you don't get it. Oh, Willy Wonka. Oh, and we got one correct answer. So, whoop, I'm moving up. I'm moving up. I'm in the lead now. Victor's winning. So the next question is, who said, I told you that I'm not the party animal people think I am at the Washington, D.C. conference? Was that Phil Batista, me, Victoria Schmidt, Ann Zabilet, or Lenny Warren? We have, yes, the answer was Lenny Warren. So let's see the next question. And of course, these could be remedy-related questions, or they could be questions about how people are feeling. So who said nothing is as permanent as a temporary solution? Was that Phil, Victoria, Ann, or Lenny? Oh, everybody got that one right too. So we're staying the same with our tracking here. It's giving us the points. The first step a developer takes, sure, no problem, what? What's their next one there? Rate their response. For sure, no problem. That's right. It is typical developer behavior. Okay. And the next one is, what is the second step that a developer takes? Gets to work, right? Or ensures his video's off. Oh, I wasn't fast enough. That one was really quick. But it's ensure his video is off. Sometimes these Kahoots, and the instructor sets what they're going to be. They can be super fast just to keep people on their toes, right? So these can be used as an end-of-day summary, as a fun knowledge checkpoint, right? A great way to go through some of the things that you've taught today and make sure that people are paying attention and they have to answer quickly, right? So it's a game. They're competitive because they can see their scores that are out there. You can also use it as a survey to see how students are feeling about the training. Is everybody feeling good about the training? You know, because they can type in their answers and it can actually come up in a word cloud. So you can see if most people are feeling good about it or if they're frustrated or what's going on. So, and again, here's some examples of those types of touch-based questions. Like, you know, were you comfortable with the material presented? Could you do things today that you couldn't do yesterday? What types of things do you feel like you need to work on and improve? Things like that, right? You can also run a report out of Kahoot to see who was engaged in the training, right? So you can actually do a report, and if you had a 5-day class, you might want to run that report after the first day when you do your first Kahoot and show it to the students. Because I can guarantee you, if you do that, you're going to have more engagement the next day. Because people are going to see, oh, they're going to know that I was sitting here not paying any attention. I didn't answer a single one of these, right? So that gets your engagement a little bit higher. So now we're going to have a few more questions. So get ready with your phones again. Ready? It's coming up. What did the father buffalo say when the son left the herd? You have 20 seconds. Bye, son.
We're getting laughs and groans in here. That's great.
So see, you got to be quick and you got to be thinking on your toes for some of these Kahoots, right? So now it's time for a little Culture Club trivia. You ready? Here it comes at you. Who was the lead singer of the band Culture Club? Boy George. Oh, just one person got it right this time. All right, this one's a true or false, so it should be easy. Double or nothing. Was Sean Connery cool? Yeah, of course he's cool. He's 007. And now, because it's this time of year for Christmas time, we'll do a little Christmas trivia. See if you can get this question. Which popular Christmas beverage was called milk punch? And it was eggnog, of course. And the next one is, how many ghosts show up in A Christmas Carol? See if I
We're
remember
yelling
this.
answers out here because we didn't get the thing to play, so we're yelling answers out here.
You guys didn't?
4. I thought it was
And
3.
the friend that visited to tell him the 3 were coming.
Yeah.
Oh, that is 4.
Yeah, that is true.
It is 4. Yep. 4. You got to be quick with these things, right? This one's easy. Is it Letty or Phil?
That's my kind of culture.
Oh, that's Phil.
Yeah, definitely. So,
You're gonna lose, you guys.
really?
Yeah, it's not me.
No, I know it's not.
That's how I feel.
No, it was false.
Well, I'm just roaming
Now
around.
you have another question. So who do you think I was in my earlier life?
long range.
That's the Invisible Man, right?
Is he the Invisible Man? Yeah.
Now, this is me personally.
Oh, you personally?
Yep. Oh, man.
Victoria Bin-
Let's go back and do that one again.
That didn't help us.
Okay. And this one is an example of a word cloud. So just type what you think about Kahoot. And as people do it, it will pop out all the words that people type in as a word cloud. And this would be a good one for how did you feel about today's training, right?
Never asked that.
So those kind of things. So you can kind of see where you would use something like this.
Yeah, you want to come up and ask a question, Barry? Hang on, we have a question from the audience here. Just a second, Vicky.
Yep, go ahead.
You make room here.
I really like your examples, and I can see applicability to a lot of the training and things that I have performed as well as experienced. I guess the question is, do you have any metrics on which of these approaches seems to be the most successful?
It really depends on the topic that you're teaching, right? I know that simulations are extremely effective in giving hands-on experience in a safe way that people can practice something and they can practice it over and over. That one really works well. For the games, it actually does make a difference, especially if you have a start looking forward to it and they pay more attention in the class, right? And the games that work the best are ones that are scenario based, something related to their job, or the questions within the game are related to their job, right?
My daughter teaches mathematics and at the high school level, and she has had extreme success by playing games that challenge them to find a solution.
Yes.
Find a solution to the problem, and then once you find the solution, you go figure out the mathematical formula that would have calculated that solution. But it was the challenge of working as a group and figuring out how to approach solving the problem. And that, she's had extreme success with that. And I've had some success with that kind of thing too, where you present a challenge that everybody's like, oh, you're actually looking at me and challenging me to do something. And it's been extremely successful. But do you have a favorite from all of these?
I like a lot of them. It depends on the situation. You know, virtual reality is great in certain situations, but not others. I really like the game, which is similar to what you're talking about, is the Puzzler, because it presents a scenario and it's a challenge, and they actually have to go in the system and look up these things. There's no other way for them to figure it out. So there's, you know, a customer between these two that have the customer, what is it? There are two customers between the customer whose occupation was floor